to it all.
Cool. We are all good.
All right. Perfect. Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Brandon from Audio Addiction. Very excited to be joined by both Brad and Mike. They are of Vacant Voice, and we are going to be taking a listen to their new album, Cathartic Beauty. It's out now. You can check the links in the description. Guys, thank you for coming back. I appreciate it and spending the time with a new album. So I'm very
Thanks
excited.
for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
I wanted to kind of get some for people who haven't checked out Vacant Voice. I'll also, after this is over with, I'll just make sure to include a link to the interview. So if you wanted to have any questions, that we recorded that around like I think Roscoe's had come out,
Mm-hmm.
and then I think you also had, I believe it was Detachment was like maybe going to come out like not much longer after we released that. So been a little bit. I did check out both Roscoe's and Detachment, and funnily enough, I had a reaction video for the last single you guys released, but for whatever reason, my brain, I had like a brain fart and I didn't do it. So I recorded it, but I never edited it, but maybe it'll make its way back on the channel at some point. But I'm pretty excited for you guys to, jump into this album. How is that process for you guys? Because this is your debut album, so I imagine you guys are pretty stoked on the release, of course.
Yeah. It was a fucking long process, dude. It was like 4, I think five,
5 years
technically.
now.
Yeah, 5 years.
I think it was in February when I hit you up to do the vocals on that one track.
Yeah,
Ooh.
February 2018. That was Half-Light.
That turned out to be Half-Light. Yeah.
So you guys have been patiently awaiting for the moment to release this. So I feel like kind of just knowing Mike for a little bit of time, like I feel like that to me at least for working on something for 5 years is quite crazy. So, I'm very excited. But we are going to get into the title track, Cathartic Beauty. Guys, in terms of like the lyricism of this track, where is this kind of drawing from, and like, what are kind of the the emotions you're trying to go off of with this one?
Yeah, so this one kind of set the overall theme of the album. Funny enough, it was about a very transformative experience that I had with him. We decided on a whim to take mushrooms one day, and it was me, him, and our former guitar player that had a crazy experience. And I think a lot of inspiration came from that and kind of bled into the other songs and other lyrics for the other songs too, just like the overall concepts of someday we're all gonna die, like everything expires, that sort of thing, just realizing mortality, and just like the human condition, things like that.
Yeah, I think at that point we had lyrics for Half-Light done, and that was like it. And
Oh, wow.
we were kind of still working on everything else. And yeah, like he said, it kind of set the pace for the whole record. We got done with that, and it was like, all right, so we know what we need to do now.
yeah, definitely.
And was this a first song that you guys had written together, or was this like one of the, I guess, in terms of like time frame, was which one did, how long ago did this one kind of had been worked on? This, I would assume this might not be the oldest one, but I don't know.
It was it was pretty early on. I think we had done Half-Light, and we had put together a little bit of a structure for it was Detachment.
Yeah, and
which was a very slight structure, and then like in one go we pounded out. Yeah, I say one go. It was like one weekend. We took care of, not necessarily lyrically, but in terms of the songs, we took care of like No Forever, Collapse, and Cathartic Beauty in like one weekend.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, and when I had first joined, they had a couple of existing just like demos. I don't think they turned out to be anything, so they did like write partial songs, but I don't think we ever wrote like lyrics to them. That was back when David was in the band, so
yeah.
There we go. Well, I feel like we have to obviously start off with the first track, Cathartic Beauty. So, guys, if you have not listened to the album yet, this is going to be the perfect time to just jump into it. We're going literally song by song. So, we're going to start off with the first one, the title track, which is great. So let's get into it, guys.
This one starts off kind of quiet.
I like this, yeah. But it's a build-up. It's a build-up, you know? I got it. I haven't listened to any of these songs other than Roscoe's and Detachment, so all the new stuff is going to be new.
Sweet, that's good.
Getting the first reactions. Yeah. All right. This is cool. That was clean. I like that.
So, as an opener, what do you think of that song?
Is this pretty much the end of it? Let's see. I just want to see.
Yeah,
Or-
yeah.
okay.
There's a long outro. As well. It's pretty much done.
Yeah.
I thought this one, I will say the intro part of the song, I was like, okay, I'm like, is this going to be like a slow burn? You know, I do like when bands kind of start off the album with, you know, something that just kind of, again, initially gets you into like the process or like the way the song is going to go. And I did feel like I was like, okay, this is starting off soft. I'm trying to piecemeal where it's going to be going, you know, how heavy you're going to go, because I was trying to like remember like Roscoe's Violent Dream, which obviously we're going to listen to after this in just a moment. But I was like, okay, are they going to like go heavier? Is it going to be like more post-hardcore-y? this one definitely feels more in the camp of like a metalcore kind of feeling, you know. I like it. I do think it's a great opener. By the time the like song like kicks in and the actual like musicality begins, I was like, all right, this is tight. Like the guitar riffs, you know, I'm a sucker for a good guitar riff, and I feel like that some of those guitar parts, I was like, all right, this is sick. I was really vibing out with that. Um, I will say like whoever is doing like I don't know who you guys went to for like the production of it or like the mix and master, but it has like a great sound to it in terms of like the arrangement of the music. Like I often find that like especially more smaller unknown bands, like I always point to having good production and having good sound, and I do feel like this song is a great representation because it not only shows off, I think, the dynamics of your band as a whole, but I think also vocally too. There's just like great moments with Brad screaming, obviously great Mike moments with clean singing. I just think there was a nice balance. The first band that kind of came to mind was the Devil Wears Prada. I feel like that kind of gave me that sort of vibe like off the bat, and I was like, all right, this is pulling from like some OG, even like a little bit of like old school, like maybe like first two albums like Miss May I a little bit. You know, you kind of give me a little bit of Mike kind of give me a little bit of Ryan Neff there, you know,
I
in
can see
terms
that.
of the
Yeah, I can
vocal.
see the chorus being that's what I thought of originally.
I totally thought that too, which makes sense because the first two Miss May I albums, like when we first became friends
Oh,
when we were like 11, like that shit was on repeat.
it's so
Mm-hmm.
good. They're classics for a reason, you know. So
Oh
I
Yeah.
felt like it was very like Ryan Neff. It was like kind of like if Prada and like Miss May I had like a love child, and that whole song
Hey,
felt like that.
we'll take
Um,
it.
but I appreciate. I think the one thing that I enjoyed the most about the song was just like the push of like Brad screaming. Like it just feels like as soon as you hear him scream, you're like, "Fuck, man!" Like
Yeah, it's
this is
a little more aggressive for sure.
it's a little bit more aggressive, and I think that I appreciate that, especially with it being the first song on the album. I don't know if it would be the first song for most people to listen to unless, you know, they happen to stumble upon Cathartic Beauty and they just go, you know, first song to last song. Um
Yeah.
but
I agree.
I think this is a great opener if you're like me and you're old and you like listening to albums from front to back. I think this is like I think this is what I would consider like a quintessential kind of opener track to the album. So I think it gives you a little bit of post-hardcore, gives you a little bit of metalcore, and then it kind of gives you a good, I would say a good consensus of, I imagine what you guys are going to delve into more into the album. So I don't want to read into it, obviously, since I've only listened to a few handful of the songs off the album as a whole, but I would say it's good. After knowing kind of what to expect with the singles, I was like, this feels well in the wheelhouse. So
Thank you.
kudos. I think it sounded great.
Thank you.
So, but we talked about the like lyricism of it. We did talk about in terms of like how old the song may have been, in terms of the writing process. Um, you know, in terms of the reception thus far, I know it just came out today, but like, you know, in terms of people I saw on the Instagram story, you know, people have been really stoked about it. Has anybody kind of given you guys any feedback in regards to how, you know, how they're feeling on the album thus far?
Yeah, we've gotten a pretty good chunk of feedback so far. It seems like people really like it. Um, I mean, I don't know obviously what percentage of the people that we've heard from are like front to backers, but
Sure. Yeah.
I can only assume that they've probably heard most of it at this point. We've gotten really good reception so far, so
Yeah, it's always good hearing new feedback. Like as we were in the final like production stages, like we showed like our friends like the songs and stuff.
Sure.
So it's nice getting you know a little bit of a less biased opinion on it. You know.
Sure. Yeah. And I also know you guys did a like live event where you went through and did Q&A on the album too. Like I imagine that too was like a whole nother thing where, you know, people were really asking, delving into the album as well too. So I don't know if you guys, I imagine it was not recorded if I had to guess, but you know, this is, I'm curious what people thought about it. See, you know, obviously sitting there and listening to it as you guys, you know, are going through it. So Do you feel like people
we
were?
did live stream that. We ended up
Oh,
taking it
okay.
down, but a lot of it was pretty mellow. It was just a lot of us like just kind of discussing things. There were some questions, but it was for the most part very chill.
Very chill. Nice. And then in regards to the album, because I know I did ask you in our interview, now that the full thing is out, do you guys have a favorite that you're excited for me to listen to in terms of this album thus far?
I like Half-Light a lot. That's a good one.
Half-Life. Okay.
I also really like Self-Surrender, but that's just because it's like short and sweet. So
I like No Forever. I like the breakdown.
yeah,
Ooh,
I like
okay.
all of them.
Yeah.
It's like a favorite child. I feel like you can't pick one.
Yeah.
Be rude. But this one was great. I think again, if you're much like myself, you're a front to back listener, I would highly recommend joining me. If not, hit that dial back all the way back to the beginning, and then you can watch it with me and enjoy it. If not, then you can check the links below. Go pick it up. I don't know if they have any CDs for it. I know it's on all the streaming platforms. No one believes in CDs. CDs don't exist, guys. So just don't ask him for CDs.
Right now.
No physicals. They're gonna print me a special vinyl, of course, because I know Mike won't do me solid.
It's just a concept.
Yeah, you're
It's just
crazy. You're just imagining all of this.
Yeah. I'm actually just talking to myself, and I'm live streaming myself talking to myself. Actually, Mike and Brad are just a figment of my imagination. So
we are metaphysical.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
Somebody's actually gonna watch this and be like, "Yo, man, is he okay? He's been doing it for a long time. Is he all right? I am not all right. I just want to let everybody know, but I'm making do. So this album is getting me by, whether it's real or not. You can check the links in the description to find out. It is real. Just this is all a joke, guys. Just want to let you know. But we are going to move it on to track 2, Roscoe's Violent Dream. I did a reaction video to it, but it's going to be nice because I haven't really listened to it since I did the reaction video. So it's going to be a nice little bit of a refresher. In terms of this song's meaning, what did you kind of delve in with Roscoe's, and I guess how did this song come to be in the amass of songs that you guys wrote for this album?
This one was kind of a tough one. There was a couple different iterations that kind of came from like group efforts to try and make lyrics for it, but eventually the theme we kind of stuck with was dying. And really just learning to overcome the fear of dying at that point in time when it was written. I'm pretty much an expert in grief, as my therapist would say, but at this point in time, there was a few people that I was very close with who had passed, at least in that same like year or maybe year and a half of that, and a lot of fear about death had to be confronted on my end, and I know that that's something that's pretty universal. It's something that all of us kind of have to go through, and the song itself is kind of about assessing that fear and finding like a new way to interact with it, and a new perspective to take on the inevitability of having to leave this world.
Sure.
And that's kind of where that one came from.
Yeah, and there is 2 songs on the album that kind of touch base on the same subject. I don't want to get too ahead of it.
Sure.
This one's more of like a neutral ground on it,
Yeah.
and then the other one, obviously, No Forever, kind of implying that nothing is forever.
Yeah.
That's more of like an uplifting, like you only have one shot.
Yeah.
To do it. So more of like a positive, uplifting kind of vibe, but still in the same respect, touching on the same thing.
Sure. And how did you guys come up with the title of this song? Because I don't know if it has any like significant meaning or not, but I always find when bands have like a really interesting song title, or I grew up in the age with, again, like as I mentioned before, Devil Wears Prada. They used to have the most obscure, Adrian Rules too. Yeah, Reptar, King of the Ozone Layer. Like they had some really wild names. So is that kind of like a callback to, or homage to those sorts of songs? Or I'm just curious if there was any significant meaning behind the track title name.
So when I originally started working on the guitars for this song, I was tracking it with a good buddy of mine at his house, and uh, when we went to go bounce it, so that way I could have the guitars as reference, his dog was asleep on the couch, and he was like kind of like kicking as dogs do in their sleep,
Yeah.
and I was like, dude, let's call it Roscoe's Violent Dreams, and then when it came time to like kind of fine tune everything, I was like, we should just keep that. That sounds really good. That was like the working title, and we were all like, yeah, that's tight. So
That's awesome. I was, well, obviously not awesome. I hope that Roscoe, has good dreams now and isn't
yeah,
freaking out.
Roscoe's good. Roscoe's good. He's an
Roscoe's
old
good.
boy now, but he's doing good.
He's vibing. All right. I respect that. I would have been as like cool on it if, obviously things weren't going well. But
Yeah.
good thing he's not having violent dreams anymore. Or maybe he does. I don't know. We'll find out. If you're Roscoe's owner, let us know in the comments. But
Yeah.
I'm very excited to get it back into this one. It's gonna be like, it's gonna be hopping back on the bicycle again. So guys, track 2, Roscoe's Violent Dream. We're gonna hop into it now. All right, guys, if you're tuning in, this was track 2, Roscoe's Violent Dream off of Cathartic Beauty from Vacant Voice. You can check the links in the description. They have merch, which is really sick. So if you want to go support them, that's the best way to do it. So go check the links in the description. Go show them some love. I have to go get a shirt. So that was the shirt I was looking at. I was like, man, I should get that. I saw that last night, and I was like, oh man, I'll have to ask Mike. I'm gonna have to get that. But yeah, I think this one just kind of reinstates my love for this song. I really enjoy. I think at first because this was the first single, I was like, this has a lot of clean singing. It has a little bit of Brad in it, and I was like, kind of expecting a little bit more at the current time, and now kind of listening to it and having the inverse, which is, Cathartic Beauty, where I felt like it was more of a 50-50 split. This was nice to hear more of Mike. And I think in the moments where Brad's in it is also really cool. I like that I like that you did like the doubling in the chorus. That was really sick. I know a lot of bands kind of like harmonize in that way, but I think it just really worked out in terms of that. And I also think that this one just, at least from my perspective, it just allows Mike to like stretch his legs a little bit more vocally, which was really cool. And I think kind of, again, listening to Cathartic Beauty just moments ago was a cool kind of indicator, or like, I guess, a different perspective on the song that I often find whenever I do reviews and such, that, a single can hold up well amongst just one song that's out, but I always love hearing it more in the contextual aspect of an album or like an EP or whatever, just because, you get to experience those moments where, again, you have a song that's going to have more singing on it. I'm hoping that maybe there might be a track with just mostly Brad on it. I have a feeling, just an intuition about that. But yeah, I think that was really cool. And this one definitely leans more into the sort of like post-hardcore side of things that you guys bring to the table. So going back and listening to this one was a journey, but certainly a good one. So I like this one a lot still. My thoughts on this song have not changed.
Yeah, big fan of that one. I like that one a lot. Yeah, I think when we sat down and we were working on lyrics and vocals for that, I remember specifically us kind of touching base on like the amount of like the kind of splitting that we wanted to do, because in my mind,
Yeah.
I feel like that song's a pretty even 50-50,
Right.
just
Really?
not structurally.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like there's a lot of us at the same time, or a lot of us like kind of like
There's not
back
a lot
and
of
forth.
independent parts 50-50, but
Yeah,
I mean, it might be more like
maybe 60-40.
60-40, yeah, but
We were pretty intentional though with how we like wanted to set certain phrasings and stuff. From what I can remember, I was high, so
yeah, I think it worked out. I think having a lot more clean singing on that upbeat type of song just kind of worked out.
Yeah.
And then for like obviously like the breakdown, just having like those harsh vocals helps, bring some more aggressive energy into it and kind of, have a hype moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it helps sell the song a little bit more in that way, where I feel like the breakdowns hit a little bit harder because there's a little bit more screaming or like aggressiveness involved with it, and then obviously with the clean singing, you can get those moments where, I know you guys have played live already, but where those moments where people can kind of sing along and have that moment with the band itself. So I enjoyed that a lot. I think it plays on the strengths of good songwriting. I just felt like the melodicness of the song really held up well, and even though, again, I hadn't listened to the song prior to that since I did the reaction video, I think it just kind of shows different range, different abilities to kind of structure out a song that still has that sort of Vacant Voice feeling or sound that I think will kind of carry on throughout the rest of the record, certainly. So really enjoyed that one. In regards to, I guess, the songwriting itself, were there any songs on the album that maybe went through a couple revisions in terms of what you hear on the album, or what was the song that had the most revisions, that from demo stages till now, that had experienced the most change, I guess?
They actually kind of all got the same amount of like tumbling for the
Okay.
most part. I would say that a better way to maybe figure it out or to phrase it would be the two that didn't get touched
Hmm.
really at all. Like Self Surrender, there was a lot of stuff that got changed when we tracked the drums, like structurally, but
Hmm.
that one stayed the same. And Transients also didn't really get any tumbling, mostly because our old guitar player wrote that whole song instrumentally. Um, and had that ready to bring to the table. Which shout out to Ryan Katka, amazing guy. I actually just talked to him about this record the other day. Yeah, he like donated that song to this record
Oh,
essentially before he had parted ways, or what when he parted ways with us. He left the song behind essentially, and whatever. But that one didn't really get tumbled through at all, and Self Surrender didn't really much either. So
nice. Well,
everything else got like, I mean, we like put together the initial demos, sat down, brought in the guy who engineered a lot of our stuff. A lot of shit got the chopping block, and then through the next like year after that, we really just kind of shuffled things around as need be. So everybody got the treatment on the album.
everybody got the works. Yeah, I gotcha. That's good. I think what I've noticed thus far, and obviously I know you guys have both been in prior projects before, but um, I think the attention to detail in regards to like the songwriting and how intentional you guys are about, I think, putting the songs together in, I would argue like the order that it is now, like obviously because it's on the album, but um it just feels like it has more of a purpose rather than just to be like, okay, well, we're gonna put 8 songs on here. It doesn't matter what order we put them in. I do feel like there's a level of like thought and cohesiveness in regards to the writing. Like even just again listening to Cathartic Beauty and then this song, like it's just like the way that you guys kind of have it structured out already is like, okay, you guys have been in bands, like this is what the album has to kind of drag you in that way. So I appreciate the attention to putting the songs where you feel like they should be because you know that they're going to garner that sort of attention. Or like even with the singles, like Roscoe's is at the beginning, Detachment's closer to the end. It was just nice to hear, at least from the songs that I've heard, it was nice to hear kind of like one song being a little bit more in the front half, obviously Detachment being closer to the second half. And obviously we'll all figure out how the songs kind of work out as the time goes on now. But yeah, I wanted to give you guys a salutes on that because it really just feel like you guys, I don't want to say put all your eggs in one basket, but it just feels like there is like that intention to be like, okay, listen, we have a cool album we want to put out, like how are we going to do it and what is going to bring us the most conviction, while putting it out there. And I think that you guys arranged it well thus far from what I've heard. Obviously we're going to delve more into it, but like thus far I'm like 2 thumbs up. This is
Thank
great.
you.
So
Yeah, I mean, the goal was all killer, no filler, and with that, with having the dynamic that we have, the approach that we wanted to take was kind of like a vinyl, like a side A and a side B. The first half should, be cohesive but speak differently than the second half.
sure, yeah, you want to get stuff off the chest that maybe the first half of the album hasn't. So I feel like that's kind of an OG move. I don't think a lot of bands really think about it in that aspect, but I appreciate the attention to detail as I mentioned before. So we're gonna hop it into track 3, which is No Forever. I have to ask guys, continuing question in terms of the lyricism for this and the meaning behind this song. What are you guys delving into? I think Brad kind of alluded to it a little earlier, but
Yeah, this one was originally like hard, like I don't want to say like I guess like anti-religion in a
mm-hmm.
way. Like the title was called Godless, so it
Yeah.
was just like basically it was just about um like don't shove your beliefs on me type of thing. We were edgy as fuck.
Yeah, this
In
this
like
this song started as a song in our prior band, and we were like, "Oh, that one was pretty cool. Like, we could probably bring that back." And we ditched the edge on it, but still ran with that kind of theme.
same kind of theme, yeah. It's just more of a matured kind of paradigm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We weren't so much like, "Oh, fuck religious people." It was just like, let's have a productive view on how we feel about this.
Yeah, it was more of like more of an angsty type thing, but I think that over time we really got to consolidate it into like more of a cohesive, mature thing.
Yeah, because I think like I appreciate that thought, because I think sometimes like bands ultimately jump to the thing of like, let's just dogpile on this, because we can. And that's, I mean, to be fair, there are some good songs that are like that. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, yeah, do it,
Right.
but also at the same point, I appreciate that you guys were like, okay, listen, like we've been in bands before, we've been doing this for a while, like let's do it in a way that still gets our point across, but maybe isn't as like in your face,
Sharp of an edge type thing.
yeah, sharper than yeah, exactly. Well, I'm glad you guys kind of dulled the edge a little bit. It's still there, it's still there, but it's not as aggressive. So I appreciate it. So we're gonna get into No Forever, guys. Track 3. Let's hop into it. Like this intro. I'm okay with change, and I'm holding out for better days. The longer I wait, the less it'll be. Defining myself so incessantly, it is evident that what will be will reveal itself as everlasting fate. Awaken yourself from the dream of reality. Okay. Ooh, all right. This is tight. Discovering your liberation. You spent your life on one foundation. Nice little hi-hat moment. I like that. Little All right, guys, that was track 3, No Forever. This one was great. I really enjoyed this one a lot. Obviously, you could tell I was getting into it. I think that breakdown was so sick, and then just doubling down on it after I was like, okay, they're not gonna do it again, are they? And then, bros, that was wild. So I like that one a lot. I think Brad crushed it. I think again, the way that Brad kind of fits within this song, it just he like cuts through the mix super well. And I think that was like the probably like the biggest selling point to me is like vocally it just feels like there's just like a tunnel that just kind of allows you to just really focus in on either the clean vocals or the screaming. And I gotta give us shout outs to whoever you did your production work with, because they, whoever they are, shout outs.
Andreas Magnuson.
Andreas crushed it, my dude.
Yeah, shout out to Andreas, dude. It's funny. I mentioned this at our album listening party, but A Higher Place by Born of Osiris has been one of my favorite albums
Sure,
for like ever. Like, it was the first record I ever bought on CD, and I bought it on vinyl last year, and I was reading it sometime around like Christmas time, I think. Might have been a little later. I was like going through and reading the back, and I was like, mixed and mastered by Andreas Magnuson. I was like, that's cool. We had just gotten the album back like maybe 6 months before, so I was like, crazy, full circle moment.
Yeah, oh my god. Well, big salutes. That's awesome. I do feel like the song itself was like, it kind of gave me a little bit of like Moz the Flames, like older stuff, and that's like one of the, I would argue, one of the OG metalcore bands out there right now. Like, I think they are like the workhorse. They have a sound that has like, again, evolved over time, but like they've done it tastefully. And I feel like very similarly to them, this song feels like a tasteful rendition of just like an OG like metalcore song. Like, I was listening to this and I was like, I'm not gonna lie, got a little nostalgic. I was like, man, there are some moments in that song that I was like, I can hear some influences that I haven't heard in quite a bit. And I was like, I was really kind of just feeling that one out. And chorus sounded great, really like large chorus. I think you guys have definitely figured out the formula of like classic like metalcore sounds where you're like
to make people feel old.
I feel old as shit. You've crushed you. 10 out of 10. You made me feel old. I was like, God, when did that Prada album come out? Oh man. All right. No, but I was
2007.
Whoa, oh man.
Dude, we were just talking about bringing back like the graphic tee, like Hot Topic. You know
what
I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Like, doing a design like that, since like everyone's like, oh, you guys, remind me of this like nostalgic band. Like, that'd be so cool, like to bring back like the early 2010s, late 2000s t-shirt design.
One of those like insanely like wild, like neon colored, like, I got you. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
The Osiris's.
Guys, if you know, you know. If you're OG, you know. But yeah, I would respect that. I feel like you guys could do it. You could do it tastefully. So I'll have to see what's going on. But yeah, no, you guys thus far, like, it just feels like a good modern interpretation of a band that like would have been popular in like the like early 2010s. I think, like, I don't know if that's a compliment to you guys, but it kind of feels, again, a little slighted because we're all old, but also at the same time I feel like for me it's like, whoa, what the hell happened? Oh, what the hell happened?
Okay, you're still there. I was like, oh shit, I thought you disappeared. I was like,
oh
no, the live.
I'm here still. I don't know what the hell happened, man. That's weird.
I mean, I will say though, that does make total sense though, especially with the 2010s. Are we still live?
Oh yeah, something sketched out here. We're good. All right, I'm back. I don't know what happened.
It totally makes sense though, because I mean that's the time. I mean, we're pretty young. We're young bucks. We're 24. I mean, 2009, 2010, 2011. That was when we were getting into heavy music, and that's when we were really finding like what made us tick, as people. And obviously we've developed since then, but that was
don't make me feel old, guys. Don't make me. I'm already feeling the age right now, so
he's like, I was in high school then.
Bro, I'm 30, so I'm at least a grade older than, a whole couple grades older than you, so now I'm feeling the age now. But no, I really enjoyed this. I think, again, all the comments I feel like about people feeling nostalgic for your band or like have that sort of nostalgia about it, I think is rightfully so, because you guys definitely bring that sort of musical energy that I feel like a lot of bands at that time kind of brought, like big choruses, really like punchy like guitar riffs. Again, I really enjoyed the guitar riffs on this track as well. Really tight. Again, reminiscent of some like Prada, like Monster Flames, stuff like that. That I've been listening to a lot recently and trying to go back into the back catalog and listening to a lot of that stuff. But yeah, I think you guys definitely pull from that sort of lane. So absolutely love that one. But we are going to get into the next track, which is Collapse, and I'll have the guys kind of talk about the lyricism for this one, as I have to make sure if my stream, the live stream for the songs came up, so you guys can tell us what's going on with that.
So Collapse was a song that I wrote about my use with alcohol. I'm an alcoholic. And at the time when I wrote it, it was when I had originally first gotten sober, and this was like at the tail end of, it was right before I'd gotten sober for the first time, and I wrote it as kind of like an open letter to like myself, which I say in the song. You'll see. The first half of it is essentially like my way of discussing what I was currently going through, and then the second half, where Brad kind of comes in, is like that is where it hits into like a letter written to like my younger self.
Nice.
Just kind of discussing, like what would be to come. So.
And Brad, how did you feel about, obviously Mike bringing that track to you? I feel like a lot of these songs have a lot of like emotional depth, and I'm excited to kind of delve more into the lyricism, as the songs kind of come out, and I'm listening to this more on a frequent basis. But when, as I mentioned before, Brad, when Mike originally brought the song to you, were you like, what was you kind of your thoughts or takes on the song as a whole, I guess?
Yeah, I think that this one is like really powerful, like really emotional, and that allowed me to kind of like really get into it. You know what I mean? Like just like scream my fucking lungs out, type of vibe. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And that was challenging. I think I blew my voice out after doing that song, and I had to take a break for like a couple days. But yeah. I mean, it allowed me to really like just get fully into it, like emotionally, and yeah.
And were you, in terms of, I guess I can kind of piggyback on that, in terms of the actual lyricism of all the songs on the album, did you guys kind of like split it up, or like, I'm curious in terms of that process on how you guys went about, going about the lyricism. Was it more of like, hey, I have this song, like as Mike went to, obviously Brad to talk about this song, Collapse, or did you guys have more moments of that, or was it more like you guys both sat into a room and just kind of like figured out
We
what
did
we
a
were gonna
little of everything. So we had sit downs where we would just talk about like concepts, or like I would write something and he'd be like, maybe like word it differently, or like phrase it,
Sure.
have a different cadence, that way it fits, the rhythm better or something.
Yeah.
And then there were times where like I didn't know what to write. He obviously took the grounds of Collapse, and I feel like what he wrote to that is very fitting for that style of song. So it was just really dependent on what we were feeling like we could truly bring out to fit the vibe of the song, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it was definitely it's kind of like a split down the middle, essentially, of like who did what. Like there's songs where like 95% of it is Brad. There's songs where it's like right down the middle, like each of us were like literally line by line, like going back and forth.
We would do like, I would write a line, he would be like, this would be cool to do after that, on A-B type stuff.
Nice.
And, yeah, I mean, which is cool. Like I don't want to be like, it is cool to be like, oh yeah, I wrote a lot of content for this thing, but I like having multiple minds on things, so that way it gets like curated, and I know like it's gonna sound good and it just fits well. Sometimes you just like overthink things and you just don't get anything done, like when I'm just sitting trying to write lyrics, like I'm like, fuck, I can't, what I mean? So it helps expedite the process having someone else to help with it.
Yeah, sure. I also feel like it might also help bounce ideas, or like in terms of like lyricism on like, oh, I feel like maybe this part should be this, and then you're like, oh, well, what if it's actually this instead? And then I think it's more of a collaborative effort rather than for one person to just be like, okay, I'm going to write all of my clean parts. You're going to write all your screen parts. We're going to somehow mash them together and like make it work. So I appreciate the kind of process that you guys went through in regards to writing the songs, whether it's something that, like, again, in the case of Collabs, where Mike had most of kind of the ideas hashed out in terms of what he wanted to do for this song, or at least, you know, the meaning behind the song, and how you guys are able to kind of build off that and, you know, make it into the song that we're going to be listening to in just a moment. So appreciate that. And, you know, obviously, you know, very excited to kind of delve into this. We're about halfway through the album. So if you guys have liked this thus far, check the links in the description. Go pick up Cathartic Beauty. It is not physically available yet, quote unquote. So, you know, if there's enough demand, maybe maybe you might get it. I don't know. I can't
Bring that shit so we can make CDs.
There you go. You heard it here first, guys. Well, let's get into Collabs. Again, I don't know what happened to my computer, so if the guys can hear it, hopefully that's good. But we're going to jump into track 4, Collabs. So you guys are good, right? You can hear this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Watch me fall asleep with my eyes open. I hate to say it, but I'll never see the day again. And I've been lied to myself one more, trust to my friends. You always had my back, but I have given in. It's taken too long, it's never worth it. Someday I'll find the missing piece linked to the hurt end. I let it swallow me up, just like my parents did. You know you always were right, I'm an embarrassment. These are the words I'd say to my missing self. But when the bottles took away that's sitting on the shelf, if I could change my ways,
I like the
you
piano.
know I always would. I guess sometimes it gets hard knowing I never could. Shades of gray, shades of black, just give it all you have. Eventually you'll see the colors start to flood right back. Shades of gray, shades of black, don't ever lose your heart. Dear yesterday, let's go back to the start. Please listen to me, you'll never see this coming. It feels good to run away with everyone surrounding. Your life, your love, your heartbreak, but drown in sorrow and pain. Please don't dear yesterday, please listen to me. It's all I've ever wanted. I know it's easy to escape when we've all been forgotten. It feels good, it feels great. You'll never bat an eye, but don't be surprised
All right, guys, if you're just tuning in, track 4, this one is called Collapse off of Cathartic Beauty by Vacant Voice. And I have Brad and Mike here to join me. So if you've liked it so far, check the links below. Go stream it. Go follow them on Spotify. I've already done that. So, you should do that too. If you do it, if you have Spotify. If not, go pick it up on Apple Music or whatever streaming platform you use. I'm sure it's there. But yeah, I enjoyed this one a lot. This is I think it's nice that it is, if we're thinking in the terms of what Mike said earlier, where, you have the vinyl and this is like the last song on that before you flip it over. This one feels very like it was a cool way to end this half of the album. Just because I think it's like a very powerful song, I think oftentimes, the bands that I have on, like, they write about stuff that obviously is very close to them. And, obviously I'm glad that, you're doing better, Mike, certainly. But I also appreciate the fact that you're willing to write about something that is, very personal. I think oftentimes, bands tend to, I want to say, shy away from that, because I think a lot of artists within this scene really do write about, their vices and stuff, or things that they deal with on a daily basis. But I think that you guys went about it in a really incredible way. Like, I really enjoyed the chorus of this song. I think it's very powerful, especially, again, with Brad kind of throwing in his vocals into this track, as well as like the layering going on in the track. It really has this sort of like choral, like chorus sort of effect to it, where, I think there's a lot of vocal layering going on within the track, but I think it adds to that level of like emotion that you would feel within this song that I don't know if it would have hit the same way if it didn't have more of that sort of like punch to it. I could definitely feel it. I could feel the knots in my chest a little bit, for it. So really enjoyed it. This one is definitely a little bit on the slower side, but I think I think for the reasonings as to why it's slow and having more of that sort of emotional push to it was really cool. And I think that the coolest thing about this song, I would say, is for the transition from the first verse to the second verse, where I think the first verse was mostly, if not entirely, Mike, and the second verse was mostly Brad. I think that was a really cool like juxtaposition where, you get kind of that emotional aspect at the beginning, maybe from like, person to person, and I feel like Brad's verse was more of a like, no pun intended, a cathartic sort of thing where you're releasing that sort of emotion that you might feel in those moments. So I appreciate that. I think just, again, the songwriting on this one was I think, at least from my perspective, is wildly underrated. So I'm excited to kind of, again, get into the second half of the album and the topics that you guys are going to be delving into on there. But yeah, this one was great. I think this one I'm definitely going to have to go back and listen to a little bit more. But I could feel the emotion in this one. So can imagine this one might be. You guys haven't played this one live yet, I believe, correct?
No, not
Yeah,
yet.
there's 2 songs that we haven't ever played live yet.
Yeah. Also, by the way, so we figured it out. So the stream is all still good. We just can't hear the music or the actual stream audio.
Yeah.
So it won't fuck anything up if we like hang up and then call back like right away to try and
No. We can do that.
All right, BRB. Fuck. Still have- maybe it's just the input from like your.
It could be.
The Discord. It's not that big of a deal. We've heard this fucking album enough.
Now your video's off.
The stream itself is all good, but yeah,
okay,
we're good.
All right, cool. I was like, oh man, well, I'll still have it up just in case you guys happen to hear it. But I feel like musicality wise, like there is just something about it that I think you guys really kind of like, again, touched on that I was really stoked on. So I guess, as I mentioned before, this being one of the tracks that you guys haven't played live, is there another one? What would be the other one that you guys haven't played yet?
Self-Surrender.
Yeah.
Self-Surrender, okay.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any plans to play that one live?
I mean, I guess it just kind of depends on like the demand for it. It just the kind of set list that we have and our reasons for structuring it the way that we do, they just don't really like fall into
Sure.
what we want to do. We don't ever want to like. Well, I don't want to say we don't ever want to, because I don't want to speak for everybody in the band. It's not something that we've discussed. But I personally feel like a 25-minute set is like perfect length.
Mm-hmm.
For like when I go to shows, I'm fucking bored after 25 minutes. Even if it's like, well, it might be different if it was like City and Color, Circus or Vibe. But like most of the time, I'm like, all right, I'm old. I want to go eat food. I want to smoke weed.
Yeah,
go to bed.
I think like Collapse would be cool to do every once in a while, but especially for like the vocal end of it, like even just doing like 30 minutes worth of it can be tiring, you know.
Yeah.
So, and especially having that song where it's just like fucking a barrage of like, you know,
Yeah.
that one verse, it's just a lot. So
Yeah.
Hopefully someday. Well,
Not that we couldn't do it.
I'm here for the fans, you know, guys. I can't guarantee it will happen, but who knows? Maybe it might happen down the line, you know. So
Yeah.
I asked for you guys just in case, you know. Don't go harping at Brad or Mike if you see him in person. But this one was great. I think again having it split right at the middle too, I think offers a nice, I want to say reprieve to the album, but I think it just offers this way, like this midpoint. Like I think oftentimes when, as I mentioned before, with structures, in terms of the song, and the way the album's kind of laid out, it just feels like a good stopping point. Like even if maybe you got halfway through the album, you're like, I don't have time to listen to the second half right now, but like I think this is a perfect song to stop on, and then obviously jumping off with Half Light. I think will be a great one to obviously delve into. We're gonna get into it in just a second, but yeah, I think this one's a good stopping point for people who maybe might not be able to listen to the full thing right out the gate. You know, I think this is a good stopping point if you know you can't listen to the album
there was a
front to back.
side B.
Side A, side B.
Checkpoint.
Yeah, good checkpoint. Yeah, we're at the save state right now, so makes the auto save. But the next one, guys, is Half Light. In terms of the lyricism for this song, you know, what were you guys delving into in regards to, you know, the lyrics for this song?
So there's two songs specifically written on the album about like mental illness. This one touches base on anxiety and just like what other types of like trials and stuff like a person will go through when they're experiencing that, like whether it be with like social relationships, things like that. There's like a couple of my favorite lines are like, "Watch me like the crows." That's kind of like the feeling that like when you're out in a public space, like you feel like all eyes are on you.
Sure.
And like, you know, like "Watch me burn" is basically like feeling like you're fucking like burning alive. Like you feel like you're literally like dying in some sort of fashion. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Just that sense, in a metaphorical sense. So like, just about how shitty that can be, basically.
Yeah, I know personally I've kind of experienced that in some fashions, but I also know a lot of people that kind of deal with that too. So you know, I imagine this one was, you know, a good one. I appreciate the fact that, again, very similarly as I mentioned in Mike's case about Collapse, like I appreciate that you guys are writing about things that obviously mean a lot to you. Not to say that bands don't do that in that way, but I think the way that you guys are open about talking about things that you struggle with, you know, whether it be things that we kind of all deal with or things that, you know, maybe might be a little bit more personalized to you guys. You know, I think, you know, Cathartic Beauty, as the album title suggests, I think is a good way to, you know, represent the band, because it's just like you're being able to talk about things that, you know, that may seem a little bit taboo to other people, and I think that it's a good way to just, again, have that sort of connection with people listening to it, and for people who maybe haven't even heard of your band might be able to connect more with what you guys are putting out. So love to see it, but we are going to hop into Half Light. As they mentioned before, they've listened to these songs already, so I'm going to jump into this one since I have not listened to this one. So Half Light, we're going to rock with it right now.
Race through my mind.
happy guitar part. All right.
Erase me, burn me down to the bone. You look and see right through me. Watch me like the crows. Burn anxiety.
A little harmonics. All right. Short chorus. Ooh, nice. All right.
Fatal flaws, all of my attachments, the part of me I've lost. There's nothing left of me. Don't mistake me for just a memory. Don't let me burn. There's nothing left of me. Take away used to be. Bring back my sanity. I'm barely breathing. Erase me, burn me down to the bone. You look and see right through me. Watch me like the crows. Burn anxiety. Burn time. You look and see right through me. Watch me like the crows.
Drumming's insane on this track. I like this.
Burn.
Are you guys trying to guess where I'm at in the song? Yeah.
I'm assuming the outro now.
Yeah, we're in the outro. We have like about like 20 seconds, something like that. It's a long outro.
Yeah, super long outro.
I like the like little reverse, like reverb guitar. That's tight. All right. Guys like your outros, I'll tell you what. I'm curious when you guys are going to watch this back and see what parts I got like real like, oh yeah, oh my god, that was sick. So, guys, that was Half Light. You can check that one out. It's off of Cathartic Beauty by Vacant Voice. Check the links in the description if you'd like to go support them because they're homies and you know, we like to support homies around here. So if you could do that, that'd be amazing. Maybe they'll hit your city if you can do that, you know.
That'd be awesome.
But I enjoyed this one a lot. I know from what I saw in terms of people posting about some of their favorites off the album, a lot of people reference this track, and I could certainly see why it's amongst the favorites thus far in terms of like a front runner track. Definitely the heaviest so far, I would say. I was very surprised at how like, again, the more modern metalcore sort of sound, you guys absolutely crushed it. That chorus was really short. I was very surprised at how like we hopped right into it and then we were right out of it and then we got more of Brad. So this was definitely the Brad show, 100%. You know, there's a lot of Brad moments here. But I think the coolest thing that I appreciated about it was just kind of, again, the more like melodic moments, like the really cool kind of like tapping guitar parts, a lot more reverb. There's a lot more space in the like sound, but I also think it allowed, you know, Brad to really kind of fill in those gaps really well within the track. Almost gave me a little bit of like a Silent Planet sort of feel. You know, I feel like they do a great job of, you know, measuring that sort of space between having screams, having some really cool like lead guitar parts, and obviously some like nasty guitar riffs. And I think this one has that sort of quintessential feel to it, you know. So I really enjoyed this one a lot. I imagine this one is even funner to play like live because it has that sort of, as soon as I heard it start out, I was like, this song I feel like must go off live because it just has that sort of, that it has that energy, you know. So I like that. But in terms of the song itself, I imagine this one didn't change too much in regards to that, or was this supposed to be a little bit? I'm surprised you guys went the direction you went, I guess.
This was actually like the first demo that we had like vocals on.
Oh,
like,
okay.
playback. So it did change a little bit.
Yeah. This one, I feel like this one actually ended up getting ironed out the most, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It originally started as just a guitar demo that was like super chaotic, like not a ton of like organization, and we ended up outsourcing to, because this was like super early on.
Okay.
We ended up outsourcing to a guy from the Milwaukee area named Brian Roberts to just like program drums on it, and he had chopped it up a little bit, and programmed drums to it, and then eventually when it came time to like sit down and actually like dissect everything, we, you know, took that, we pulled that apart and restructured that and added things here and added things there and took things out there. And
actually, now that I think about it, vocals didn't change at all except for that breakdown.
yeah,
I threw that in at the end. So
yeah, also same with the breakdown. We just
same with the breakdown. Yeah. So yeah, vocals didn't change much at all, but yeah.
That's cool. Like I like appreciate the fact that, shouts to Brian. I don't know if he actually did the like actual drumming on the song itself.
No, he just programmed on that.
He just programmed them. Salutes anyway. But yeah, the song itself is like, I think the most technical, I would say, in terms of like the writing, at least for the guitar work, from what I could gather. But I really enjoyed this one a lot. I feel like this is kind of your more modern interpretation of like what metalcore is kind of doing somewhat. And so I really like this one a lot, but I also have a lot of love and, again, nostalgia for some of the other songs that we just listened to before, because they have those sorts of moments that I think resonate a little bit more with me. But this one was a really solid one, and again, I can tell why people enjoy this one a ton, because it definitely is one of the best songs off this album, 100% for sure. So go give it a listen if you haven't. And also Brad crushed it, so go show him some love. But the next song is track 6, Detachment. This one features Rory Rodriguez from Dayseeker, which was really cool. I don't know if I asked you in the interview how Rory wind up making it onto this song. So how did you guys go about getting Rory onto the track? Because I think originally, I don't think you told me. I think it was like, we're keeping under this lock and key, baby. We're not telling anybody.
Yeah, I remember when we did the interview, it was like, shh. Like we're like, yeah, there's a guest that's on a song. I actually just hit him up on Facebook.
Oh,
we're friends on Facebook, and we were like discussing getting a feature on the song at the time, and it was like, well, who could we ask? And I don't know who else we had even thought of.
Jesse Cash was one of them.
Yeah, Jesse Cash was one of them that we thought about. And I was like, well, I'm friends with like Rory from Dayseeker on Facebook. I could hit him up. And I just messaged him and we got it going.
Nice. Well, that seems pretty easily. You know, it seemed like he was very much into it. When you sent over the demo for the track, he was like, yeah, this is something I would want to do. You know.
I mean, at the time too, because this was when they were recording Sleep Talk.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, that was the one before this one. Yeah.
Yeah. He ended up doing it while they were while they were doing it there. The part was engineered by the guy that did their record, and so this was like right before things really picked up for them. So we got lucky in that sense.
Yeah, you did for sure. And then as well as that, have to ask as well, lyricism for this one. You know, what's the topic you're delving into on this one?
This one's another like mental disorder type thing, but it's just about like dissociative identity disorder. So it's just basically about like derealization and a couple of experiences that I've had with it. Not any in like particular, but basically just another one of those things that like I thought I was fucking crazy, and I thought it'd be cool to write a song about it.
Well, we're gonna find out how crazy Brad gets in this track. I mean, I've already listened to it already, so, but we're gonna give it another listen again. So, guys, this is track 6, Detachment, featuring Rory Rodriguez of Dayseeker. So we're gonna jump into that one right now.
I feel nothing. This isn't me. Dissociating. Burning by a haunting disease. Daydreaming. A sense of endlessness. Repetition. Transgressing the bounds of sanity. When I can't feel a thing. It comes with a wave of apathy. Followed by my endless depression. Separation leaves me cold. I left who I was there. I left myself to hate. I have myself to blame. I gave it all away. Day by day, you live uncertainty. What have you done to my identity? I follow patterns, trapped in light. I'm grateful for my time.
Didn't realize how much layering is going on in that chorus. There's a lot.
Yeah, there's quite a few.
I never asked for help. I never asked for this. I'm grateful, feeling fatal, unstable, inevitable, digging my own grave. I split in two. Day by day.
All right, the Rory feature. All right.
There's no escape, seal my fate. My trauma won't be erased. I lose my sense of myself, 'cause every day is hell. If nothing lasts forever, then I will drown in the well. Day by day, you live uncertainty. What have you done to my identity? I follow patterns, trapped in light. I'm grateful for my
right, guys. Well, that was track 6, Detachment, featuring Rory Rodriguez of Dayseeker. I feel like originally I wasn't. I liked this song, but I was like, this feels a little bit out of place because, again, I had just finished listening to Roscoe's. Now it all makes sense. And that's why I tell people context is important, because this one makes much more sense after Half Light. At first, I was like, wow, they really went heavy. Like, this is way heavier than what they've released before. That's crazy. So this one definitely fits well now in the album. I was like, okay, now I get it. Like, all the gears that were turning originally now have made sense now.
Yeah. We were. It was very intentional. We wanted to like debut with something that was very like across the board, and then immediately polarize exactly what we put out. Also, we just wanted to clarify. We were just talking about it. So DID is actually the newer, updated technical term for multiple personality disorder,
which is not what I was talking about.
Yeah. It was written about like disassociation and derealization, which is like
more of
their trauma responses and stuff.
Yeah, more of basically a freaky experience rather than a repeating thing. It's not like I went to the doctor and like they're like, you have this thing. It was more so, you know what I mean?
Yeah. We just wanted to clarify, so that way we didn't want to like brand it as something that it is not.
Right.
Sure. Understood. I got that. Yeah, I was like, I mean, either way, I think the song itself, like, obviously, having the name Detachment, like, I sometimes you feel like, especially what I do, where I feel like being a YouTuber and like trying to like always have this sort of complex about like comparing yourself to other people, or like, seeing other different viewpoints on things and being like, man, I really like kind of like want to like disassociate in that way from like, oh man, what if I like just didn't do YouTube, or like I didn't do this, and how much of an identity I feel like this is a part of like what I do, but also something that I talk about often. So I kind of pick that out, I kind of could understand, that perspective. Obviously I don't have DID in that way. So I think like that was my perspective on like the song originally when it came out. I was like, okay, I can understand the concept of it without maybe experiencing it in that way. Obviously, there's much more nuance with that, but yeah, I really enjoyed this one a lot. I think the coolest thing that I didn't even really notice a lot when I first listened to it was that chorus. I think that was one of the coolest parts of the song. Obviously, I love Rory's feature. I feel like that goes without saying, but the chorus was really interesting because there was a lot of layering going on vocally. I think there was some really great Brad screaming parts as well. Mike, was that you in the chorus in terms of the clean vocals, or was that also Rory? Because it kind of sounds like a mix, but I'm not 100. Oh, it's all three of you. Oh wow!
Yeah, I actually don't know if my takes got sent over.
Oh really?
I'm not sure. So
okay.
The plan was, because Rory did do. You can kind of hear him. He has like the high.
For sure, Rory's in it, but he's very low in the mix. But yeah, so definitely 2 layers of that. And actually, with my layer, or my vocal take, I did a layer of like the pitch yell, and then I think I did one of just screaming. So like just trying to make like a very thick wall of, you know what I mean, a big chorus type thing.
And I had also done pitch yelling on top of that, but I wasn't the one to bounce everything that ended up getting sent out. So I don't know for certain if it made it into there or not. It might have, but it
might have, because like there are vocal takes that I did where I remember like, oh, I did a low on this part, but I don't fucking hear it at all. I'm like, it sounded cool, but yeah.
It does definitely sound like, I couldn't make out of whether or not it was, I know obviously Brad's in it, and I did hear Rory in terms of like the higher frequency sort of stuff, higher range. And I was like, higher octaves, and I was like, is that Rory also in the like more mid kind of centralized thing? So I don't know. I think there's definitely a mix of all 3 of you guys in there, and I think that was really cool that I didn't point out in the reaction video that I wanted to point out in this video, because it was something cool that I like. In my head, I was like sitting here listening to it, and I was like, I should point that out, and then didn't even talk about it. So now is my time to correct my mistakes. So I really enjoyed this one a lot. Roy was a great feature. The only thing I think would have been cool is if he was doing some screaming. I think that would have been the only thing that I would have loved for him to do. I know obviously they've migrated away from that sort of stuff. Not to say there won't be any screaming going further, but I feel like a lot of his stuff has been, especially feature wise, have just been clean singing. So I would have loved
we kind of let him take
do
the
his
reins
thing
on that one. Yeah, jumping in the chorus was his. That was
oh
all
really
him, so.
Okay, sick. All right, well, kudos to him. I think that was a good move, because it was like, oh, okay, like you could tell there was something there, and you're like, okay. If you looked at this song and didn't know there was a feature on it, you'd be like, this guy sounds familiar. He just has a familiar sound to him. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one a lot. And I think, again, contextually, for people who have just listened to the single, I think it's going to make a lot more sense now in terms of now that the album is out. So go show it some love down in the comments and description, whatever. It's going to be there. Go click the links. But we are going to move it on to track 7, which is Self-Surrender. In terms of the lyricism, guys, and topics for this song, what did you guys delve into on this one?
So this one... This was another one of those ones that was kind of tough to really pinpoint like what we wanted to write about and how it was going to go. And this was another one that was kind of like a mind baby of mine. And this, I hate to bring it up again, but this was like shortly, like within a couple years of like me getting into psychedelics, which when I say psychedelics, I just mean mushrooms, psilocybin mushrooms. And it's very much so. It's really about identity and like what you identify with. At the time, I was reading a lot of Ram Dass, and he always talks about his first psilocybin experience being something where he realized that he was so busy trying to be somebody. Like he was busy trying to be a Harvard professor and a pilot, and, you know, motorcycle enthusiast and a car enthusiast and, you know, a lover and this and that. And during this first experience that he had, he was really able to strip away all of these phases of what he thought he was, and was able to kind of boil himself down to who he actually was. And this kind of it's introspective in that same kind of light, you know. It's really just a product of, you know, identifying the ego and the id, and you know, figuring out who you're going to be when you're done pretending to be somebody that you're not. You know, everybody
your true
wants
self,
somebody,
right?
Everybody wants to be somebody, but really we should probably figure out how to be nobody, you know, before you can really be somebody. I think you should try and figure out how to be nobody, and this is kind of what that is about. So,
and Brad, what do you think about this one? Because I feel like obviously Mike brought this song to you as well. And did you, in terms of your process for writing the lyrics for this as well, did you find that you wanted to kind of play off that as well, or?
I think just like the term self-surrender like spoke to me, like just surrendering to like the process of like whatever it is you're going through, like whatever emotion you're having or like whatever thing, like just being able to learn how to surrender to it without giving it too much attention, and that sort of way. Lyrically, that's what like spoke to me. Again, like he did most of the lyrics on this one, so
Sure, I feel that, because like I saw Mike, and I seeing him obviously talk about the lyrics, and I was like, this seems like a Mike centric track, which, you know, I'm about. But I was also I'm curious on how like the lyricism is, so we're gonna delve into this one, and I'll let you guys know. This is a short and sweet one, so, you know, if you like a short and sweet track, this is it. So track 7, Self-Surrender, jumping in now.
Like you waste the man from yesterday, might only
guessing we're gonna get another long outro here. Let's do our I think I'm right. Yep. I think my review can be summed up with, there's a lot of outros in this album.
That one's a little shorter. It is.
That
pretty
one's a
long.
little short, yeah. That, to be fair, guys, that was track 7, Self Surrender. By the way, that was all a joke. That's not actually my thoughts on the album. I think just
that
like
track
poking a
needs
little
to be
fun.
last in the order of things. So
Yeah.
and it has the same chords from the first song. So
Yeah,
like going
Oh.
like loop
Yeah.
almost.
yeah.
I like that. That's
But
cool.
then Transients was just like, it was just an ender for sure. So
You had
yeah,
to
that one was
throw that
actually
in.
called Tappy Song. That was the working title because it was just like Tappy.
It is really sick though. I did like the lead work, so big salutes.
Thank you.
This one was good. I think I appreciate, again, going back to Cathartic Beauty. I like the fact that this one was kind of more of a, I would say this one was a little bit more of a Brad track slightly, but like not by much. It was like maybe a 60-40 split. I think there was like a good bit of Mike in that middle portion of the track, and then obviously Brad sent it home, so that was really sick. I like the more like openness of this track. I think very similarly to I would probably say Collapse. It had that sort of like openness to it that I really appreciated. The guitar work was really sick. That was, again, something I like to always point out because I have just, I have a little bit of guitar bias since I play guitar myself. So I feel like I unintentionally lean into it a little bit more because I'm like, my brain ultimately is like, guitar, I like guitar good. And then that's just what happens. Guitar good. Yeah. Tap good.
Totally understand that.
Melody nice, that's what my brain thinks, and then I have to actually like spit out what I'm saying. So but yeah, this one was really great. I think that it was an interesting like melodic choice, I think, on Mike's part with the clean singing. It was definitely like a little bit more on the lower register, which I don't think we've heard thus far as of yet in terms of the album. So that was a nice change of pace, a little different, a little bit more like subdued, and I think that obviously helps with like more of the mood of the track. So I appreciated the changeover. It was definitely something I was not expecting. I was like, wow, all right, he's got Mike's showing a little range. I like that. So that was kind of my main takeaways from the song. So I enjoyed it.
Also, fun fact, on our mushroom trip, I remember at one point, kind of towards the like tail end of everything, we went into our old guitar player's room and we looped that clean riff chordy thing just over and over, and I cried. I was like, so good.
That's where all the outros came from. That makes sense. Now it's all coming.
Yeah.
It's all coming together.
Thanks, mushrooms.
Yeah, Mike's just like on shrooms. He's like, I think all of these songs have to have an outro in them.
It's fucking good.
These are all vibey, man.
Yeah. I think I'm not suggesting that you should do that, while listening to this album, but maybe you might get a little bit more out of it if you do it.
It is absolutely made for it. My roommate.
It's absolutely made for it. It gets the shroom stamp of approval.
Dude, yeah, legit. My roommate one time, he took he had an experimental period.
Okay.
I think he might have taken like 7 grams of mushrooms or something like that.
Jeez.
Quite a lot of them. And I was like, okay, I want to take advantage of this. Like, not in like a nefarious way, but I was like, okay, can I play you each of our songs? And then you like tell me like the colors you associate with it and everything. And he was like, sure. And yeah, I mean, I think at the time Collapse was song number 2 in the project. And dude, by the time Collapse was done, he was like in tears. He was like, dude, that was so fucking good. And then we got all the way down to this one, and he was like, I don't have words. I just can't even talk about it. So yeah, if you're out there and you're experienced, keyword experienced with mushrooms, eat those motherfuckers and listen to this. It'll be cool.
Only experienced people, though. I don't want to co-sign anything. I know nothing about it. I am practically straight edge, so I'm not gonna
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like,
no worries.
if you want to do it, cool, do your thing, do you, but I can, if Mike says it's okay, but only by experienced hands, just remember that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the notes to take away from this song, or just the album as a whole. But yeah, I can just imagine Mike like poking his head out the door, like out the room, and being like, he has his like he has his hands like this, and he's like, he's like,
What'd you
actually,
think?
it's not for nefarious purposes, but I would like you to listen to our album that we're working on right now, and you can let us know if it's good, if it's Shroom approved, so.
Oh yeah.
That would be hilarious. I wish I could have been a fly on the wall in that very moment. But yeah, this one I could very well see if Transient didn't exist. I feel like this one would have been a great closer track. So we're gonna have to listen to the last one and see if that one really ties everything up in a nice neat bow. But the last song is track 8, Transient. Like, in terms of the lyricism for this, obviously I know the bones of the track were originally written already before the lyricism were put together, but what type of topics or thoughts were you dealing with on this one?
So this was another one that was super fucking tough to write lyrics for. I mean, I think we went through, legit like 4 or 5 iterations of stuff. And something that we talked about it at the album listening party, and just something to clarify, I guess. A lot of people listen to this and they interpret it as like a song about a relationship, like a relationship ending.
Okay.
And although I can for sure see why, because it's cut and dry, very much so in that way, but this song is very much so about the transient nature of things. Accomplishments. Shout out to Circa Survive. I'll use that as an example. Accomplishments are transient, from the difference between medicine and poison. That's kind of the role that this takes on,
Yeah, and life is just very chaotic. At the end of the day, like, things just kind of come and go. Everything's kind of just a frequency at the lowest level. So like, you can go that direction if you want with it, or you can, you don't have to get too philosophical with it. You could just be, you could just relate with it if like you had an experience where like you were very passionate or tied up with something, and something suddenly changed. Now it's no longer a part of you.
Yeah.
And things come and go.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's very intuitive in that sense. But I just wanted to clarify, just because even our drummer was like, "Oh, clearly it's about a relationship." I want to be like, shit. It does sound like that, yeah, but no, it is very much so just about like kind of the transient nature of everything, and I obviously at surface level it doesn't scream that at all, and that's totally fine. I think in certain parts maybe it does, but it takes a deeper look to really, I think, pick up on that, which might be to a fault, but whatever.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, and I appreciate the clarification, because oftentimes, like, especially when I do these, it's a little bit more in depth, and I would hope that bands kind of are allowed to kind of say what they think about the songs, because I think oftentimes with bands, you have some people in the camp where they're like, nah, you just take whatever meaning you want out of the song. This song is now for you, and you can take it for wherever life decides to, conjure up things in your head. And then I feel like in the other camp, there's people that are like, no, this is like what we feel like the meaning of the song is. If you take something different from it, that's totally fine, but this is like the reasoning, or like this is kind of like why we have ultimately chose to do that. Do you find that because the lyricism was hard to write for this song, do you find that like going through those revisions and stuff like that, like, and just kind of having the song be of transience, like, did you find that it was maybe harder to like relate to in that way? I'm just curious as to why, like, maybe you went through the revisions that you did go through. Were they maybe not connecting as much with you guys? Because oftentimes I find that artists are like, either very like, I know exactly what I want to talk about, how I'm going to talk about it, this is the way it's going to be. And then there's times where I think a lot of, people struggle with like, oh, maybe this should be this, or this should be that. What was kind of your, I guess, roadblocks to ultimately get where transience was at here on Cathartic Beauty?
I remember us talking about it and like what we kind of envisioned for it. And we got into the topic of like, you know, if this was gonna be a music video, you know, what would we have it be? And like we talked about like one specific vocal line in there. Fuck, which one was it? It was something about across that scattered line. I think we were talking about like the car swerve, like basically about like a breakup scenario. I'm like, nah, dude, that sounds like way too like cliche and stuff.
Yeah.
And we just didn't really vibe with that. So from then on, we were like, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to go in that direction.
Yeah, the working title for it originally was Waves, and we liked that as a name. We thought that it like kind of fit the vibe pretty well. So we were like, you know, how can we kind of keep the integrity of that and like what it means to us just listening to the song while still like doing a service to it? Because that was the biggest thing. To clarify, at a certain point in the band, Brad had stepped away, and we were trying to work with someone else on this song in particular, and it was very much so back and forth trying to figure out lyrics, theme, structure. Like there were times where it was like, oh, this is way too much screaming, and then there was times where it's like there's way too much fucking singing in this. And I think figuring out that balance was a part of the hurdle, and like really trying to figure out what we could get away with talking about while still, you know, doing the song a service. Because that was the biggest thing in all of this was, you know, how can we serve the music? You know, not how can we make the music serve us? But, you know, how can we do right by the sound? And I don't know, it was just tough for some reason. And it turned out great, you know. Personally, I like it a lot. But it was it was a hard time.
Yeah, and I appreciate the candidness about it, because I think sometimes, like, you know, especially when I get to do more of these deep dive, the track by track sort of things, it's like I wouldn't have known that song was such a monster of a thing to tackle, you know, whether it be, you know, when Brad left and then having to try to retool it that way, or like trying to figure out like, is this like more relational, or is this more like, you know, just take it for your, you know, your point of view, or however you want to go about it. You know, I think oftentimes it's like I can see kind of the struggles of bands in that way, where it's like, oh man, shit, that's crazy. Like it shouldn't be like that. You know, it's like, I appreciate the fact that you guys were willing to just be like, okay, this is going to be a struggle, but like, we're going to put this on the album because we feel like it's a great song and it's going to fit on the album. But like the trials it took to get on there might not have been worth it. But obviously now that it's on the album, you're like, okay, well, it's out there, it's on there. Like, what are we going to do? We're done. You know, the baby is out there. We're going to just like let it be its thing. So, but yeah, I appreciate the candidness of it. But without further ado, we are going to get in the last song, Transients. So let's give it a listen.
If I leave this place tonight with this between my mind, do you think it would come in waves? If I said that I'll be fine, would I make it through the night? Do you think that I'd be safe? 'Cause I've been living with these things across my mind. I'm always wondering when you
Interesting
along
bridge.
every end. I'd learn to sail the seas on my own, and hopefully you'd still be mine to
Oh, like the vocal layering. All right.
I've given up for nothing. I've given up for nothing. I will replace and I will repay. I'll make it all worth something. I've given up for nothing. I've given up for nothing. I will replace and I will repay. I'll make it all worth something. I'll make it all worth something. I will replace and I will repay. I'll make it all worth something.
Not a long outro on this one.
No, not this one. Just a nice open.
All right, guys. Well, that was the last track, track 8, Transients, off of Cathartic Beauty. You can check the links below. Go check out Vacant Voice. They're awesome. Go salute them, in the comments. But this one was good. You could tell, I think musically, you could tell this one was written by a different person. Right off the bat, I was like, this has a different vibe to it, but still, I think obviously, both Mike and Brad have this sort of aura about them that just is like, oh, this still feels like a Vacant Voice track, even if sonically it might be different. I will say Mike gave me a little bit of, and I hope this is a compliment, you gave me kind of a little bit of a Stephen Christian from Amberlynn, kind of, you kind of gave me that sort of vibe, vocally. First of all, I love Amberlynn. They're one of those quintessential bands for me growing up. So, but yeah, you gave me that sort of vibe, which I don't hear too much. So I got to give you a lot of kudos for that. The vocals were definitely different on this one, but insanely good.
Yeah, I could totally see that. And obviously, just to clarify too, the person who wrote that, I mean, he still wrote all the other songs with me, so it was still the same core group of people. His departure was actually pretty recent in terms of our history. It was about a year ago. So
okay.
It was all still put together,
collectively, yeah.
In terms of formula, it was still the same group of people, same camp. But yeah, definitely very much so a labor of love from Ryan. But he crushed it, and I think after we pieced all the lyrics together, it was like, okay, this definitely serves a purpose, especially as an ender, because I mean it's a very uplifting note to end things on.
Yeah.
But also, the ending, the lyrics to the end, I've given up for nothing, I will replace and I will repay, I'll make it all worth something, is very much so, I think, important to have as an ender, because when we first formed and we were talking about lyrics and stuff like that, one of the rules that we had kind of laid down was like, hey, if you're gonna spill blood, bring a fucking rag, clean it up. That was something that our original drummer had made a very good point of discussing with us. And I think a lot of times especially when you're discussing the transient nature of things, it's very easy to become pessimistic about it, what is the fucking point of it? But I think the lyrics really help put things into a brighter light of I've given up for nothing. I'm not gonna let the fact that things are temporary, I'm not gonna let that ruin my approach to it. I'm just gonna do the best that I can and just make it worth something.
Yeah, and just noting that things are give and take. So
Yeah.
just ending on the note that and another thing I think too is we discussed our what's the word, not motto as a band, but what we value as a band. And,
Your
one of the
ethos,
things,
yeah.
What's that?
Your ethos.
Yeah, we just discussed we want to leave things better than we found them, so just
Sure,
giving
yeah.
back in that sort of fashion.
Yeah. Everything that we've done so far, an example, if you bring 2 or more perishable food items to our merch table at any point, you'll get $5 off of merch, and then we donate that to the local food pantry. just because, you know, again, like he said, you know, we want to leave things better than the way that we found them. And anytime we do something, we don't want it to just be beneficial to us. We want it to be beneficial to other people around us, you know, no matter what it is. We don't want to be selfish in that regard.
Sure, no, and I think that's a very commendable thing. So, guys, if you do go see Vacant Voice, I know they're playing a show which they can talk about in a moment here, but I I appreciate the nature of like wanting to do, you know, leaving the place a better place than how you found it. I often find for myself too, like that's the type of thing that I'd like to do. You know, anytime there's situations where I can help out, I want to make sure that, you know, I want to make sure I'm able to signal boost it in a way for somebody that can help out, should help out. So if you can do that, go do it, especially if you live locally to them. Go see them at a show and go donate, because that's really cool and very commendable, and got to give a salute to the guys on doing that. But I could totally see where people would take this in more of a relationship fashion, because I think lyrically I was listening to it a little bit more intently than I would argue normally from what I do. But I was like, yeah, I could see where people might get that opinion from, certainly. Obviously I have context, so I wasn't really focusing on it on the sort of relational aspect of things. But yeah, I could see why people might get that sort of interpretation. But I think the songwriting itself was really good. And I think that for me, it just highlights both you guys as vocalists of the band. I think a lot of it was like, you could tell there's just like a level of camaraderie between you two that I think of really great dual frontmen in bands. And I think that you guys possess those sorts of qualities that I'm like, yeah, they definitely feel like they mesh well together. And I'm not saying that because you guys are both on here, but I legitimately was listening through obviously the entire album, and I was like really trying to like think like, okay, these guys have been making music together for quite a bit, and obviously have been friends for a long time as well too. And it just feels like there's that level of connection that you guys feel together that is really apparent in this record. So I got to give you guys a lot of credit for that, because, you know, when you have two vocalists, very easily you could have moments where it's like, oh, there's a lot of things going on with, you know, this one person, and another album it could be like there's a lot of things going on with this album. But I do think that there's some moments where like there's songs that are a little bit more Brad centric, there's some moments where there's some songs that are a little bit more Mike centric. But I think a good portion of the middle of the album, and just the album as a whole, just features both of you together. And I think that is, I would argue, is probably to me a big selling point on the album. If you haven't gone to check it out, I would definitely just say like it's a good mix of everyone collectively. And I think this one, I think it's a good start to what I hope is, you know, more stuff in the future, because I really enjoyed it from front to back. I'd say probably my favorites off the album. Ooh, that's tough. I would say, in no particular order, I liked Half Light, Cathartic Beauty, Transients. I probably would put Self Surrender. And I probably I would do No Forever. I think that would be my honorable mention. I liked all the other ones, not to say it.
Now you get it earlier, and we were like, it's fucking kind of hard, because that's most of the album right there. It's
yeah,
hard to pick
it is
one,
most
dude.
of the album. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, but I would say those are probably. I would say those four are probably my top, and then obviously the honorable mention. So I pretty much splits it down the middle. So, but yeah, I would say those are. It's tough. They all gel really well together, so it's hard to kind of just be like, okay, if this was just a single and this was just the one song I listened to, it's hard to place them separate from each other. But I think it wraps up really well. And again, guys, if you have not checked out Vacant Voice, I will leave a link to our interview we did. Check that out. But as well as that, if you can go support them, go check them out. Links in the description. And guys, obviously you have a show coming up, I believe in July, if I was reading the social media correctly. You might as well tell people what you guys have coming up soon, just so if they live in your area, they can come out and go see you, donate food, and do all that sort of cool stuff.
Yeah, we're playing in Madison on July 9th with Earth Groans, Exit Wounds, Yotuma, and Double Speak.
Ooh.
Yeah. At the Annex. Red Zone Media.
Yep. I've been to a couple venues in Madison. That one we saw, I think that was the Orpheum that August Burns Red played at.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was another one I went to, but I don't think I've been to the Annex. So.
Yeah, me neither. But it'll be super cool. Yeah, July 9th. We have a couple other ones that we're going to be announcing at some point sometime soon as well. Something for some Milwaukee people. And hopefully this fall we'll be back in our hometown of Racine. But again, tentatively speaking. So.
Well, guys, listen, this is my plug to tell Vacant Voice to come out east to, the greater Philadelphia area. So, if you can pick up merch, then that's only going to help my cause of getting them out here more. So if you want to make that a reality, that'd be great. Or, if you buy merch and you live in another state and you're like, I would love to have Vacant Voice come shred a gig in my state, then go pick up some stuff and go support the guys, unless you live in Brazil, because I feel like that's a very long ways
Brazil.
out.
Just kidding. I would love to go to
I
Brazil.
just feel like every comment is like, come to Brazil,
Come to Brazil.
I feel bad, so don't comment, come to Brazil down and below. I'm going to be very upset if you do that. If you actually do it.
I've had people reach out to me, and I think probably on our socials, being like, "Come to Utah, come to Canada, come to Florida," and it's like, it's great, but fuck, like, we're far from there.
It's all right. Well, listen, every merch item counts. So
Yes,
if
it
you
does.
just want to help them get to another state, it's just only going to happen that way if you can go support them. So if you do that, that'd be great. And honestly, I would feel really blessed if you did that for me. Not that I feel like you have any obligation to follow what I tell you to do, but if you did in this obligation or choice, that'd be really sick, and I would be really happy. So if you want to make me happy, that'd be really cool. And check the links below to go follow Vacant Voice on all social media. It's all down there. They have a website, so you can go buy stuff. You can go follow them on social media. You can go follow them on all the streaming services. Go stream that stuff. Go stream Cathartic Beauty. And if you enjoyed this track by track, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. I'm trying to hit 5K before the year's over with, and we're about halfway there. So if you could help me get to 5K, I would cry, probably. There's a very good high chance that will happen. So if you could do that, if you want to see a grown-ass man cry, do it. That'd be sick.
Do it.
Actually, don't. I mean, if you want to, that'd be cool. But either
it's like
way.
at the fair where you throw the ball and you dunk the tank. It's like, yeah. But
You're just gonna dunk me in my own tears. So if you want to make that happen, do it up. That'd be awesome. And also,
his own tears.
I'm gonna get dunked in my own tears. But huge thanks to both Brad and Mike for coming on. It was a pleasure spending this album with you, and best of luck, guys. Go stream it. This is big week, big ups. So if you want to help them do things, do it up. So thank you guys for watching, and catch you in the next video. And Brad and Mike, thank you for coming on. Appreciate it.
yeah. Thanks.